Morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for coming in. We know it's early. We know today is the day that you guys wanted to get some sleep, some extra sleep going. But I appreciate you guys coming in. So, welcome, Mel. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are we doing today, Mel? What's going on this morning?
Girl, I am doing all right. I woke up this morning and I'm happy. It's Labor Day. We're gonna do some grilling today. I'm gonna do my phone today.
It's
Um,
Labor
I
Day.
love you fix your phone.
Grilling today.
Go ahead and fix your phone, sis. You got it. Good.
Well,
Um, I forget. I'll be forgetting about it. But we're gonna do some grilling today. Then I'm gonna spend my last day that I have with hubby before he has to go back to work tomorrow. So it's still one more day in theory of being YouTube free outside of this right here. And then I will be back to work
and
tomorrow.
I appreciate it. Girl, you know it's hard to catch up with you. It's hard to get you to do something. So
Listen.
I appreciate you coming on for me, girl. I appreciate it. Me, I have nothing planned. I'm gonna get some rest. I am still recuperating from my surgery, so I'm just gonna get some rest. Even though I feel good, I have to have an excuse. I got to make up excuses, girl, as to, I had surgery and I'm, on the fritz. But
How's it
today,
going? Like how are you feeling after all of that? Because I mean,
remarkably well, remarkably well. The first week, I didn't know if I was going to make it. The first week was really difficult, but I've been through a couple of these things, so I kind of already know what to expect. Um,
yeah.
but as you get older, the body takes a little bit longer to heal. Being in your 20s isn't easy here, but but listen, I'm doing well. I'm here, and I'm just going to keep pushing forward. I really am. But I am so excited about this topic that we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
Um,
so am I. It's definitely something now that, we really are at the point where somebody's got to talk about it. Somebody's got to figure out what is going on. But let's go ahead and give a shout out to the people who are running into the live this morning. Karen, what you see over there? Because I can't see it.
Girl, I see Vern's junk closet. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming in, Vern. Thank you so much for your support. It's me, Wanston. Yes, honey. Thank you for coming on in. I see Jaden. Hello, my girl Renaya Lee. Hello. Good morning. Thank you for showing up and showing out. Thank you guys. So thank you guys for coming on in.
Yeah.
Um, yes. So. Um, this topic this morning, um, living life during a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Um, Even before we even get into this, I'm wondering now, do people realize that we're still in a pandemic?
I think that if they haven't realized that we're still in it, I think they realize it now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we're at the point now where they're getting it again. They're getting it. They're seeing everything that was post pandemic basically being slapped in the face with, all these new rules and regulations that we're all having to adhere to. So yeah, I think they see it now. They see it.
Yeah, there was a little piece in between. Welcome, walk with me, Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. I honestly, there was a small space of time. I would say about a 2 to 3 week period where I actually thought we were
On the
going
other
to be
side.
okay. Yeah. After getting vaccinated and them saying that the numbers were down, and I just thought like, okay, we're getting there. And
Yeah.
then boom, here we are deep in this again. Very deep in it,
Yeah.
So you know what I noticed though, and I was thinking about this morning. I noticed in the beginning of this pandemic, I used to forget my mask, right?
Yeah.
I noticed
Right.
that,
No, yeah. That's just an extra piece of something that you got to remember to pick up in addition to your keys, your cell phone, your purse.
Right. So is it like, and this is what I'm saying, like, even I noticed, good morning, Joy. Thanks for coming in, girl. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Spotless Calm. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.
I remember that girl, Preeny. Thank you so much for coming in. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Um, but I also noticed that I have masks hanging up in my car, like a piece of laundry. Like this is
Like
it's,
that little tree, you know, the little air freshener tree. They got
yes.
the air freshener tree used to be.
Listen, I noticed that I looked on my steering wheel the other day, and there's like a little piece hanging. I have no idea what it's for, but I noticed that I had a mask hanging from there, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
This is a lot. So
yeah.
is this our new normal? Are we going to be wearing, how do you feel about that, Mel? You think we're going to be wearing these masks from now on? What do you think?
No, I don't think we're going to be wearing them from now on, because at this point it's already a struggle just to get people to put them back on after having been told that it was okay to take them off. See,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I've paid attention to how this process has began since the onset of the pandemic, it was a struggle to tell people that they needed to wear a mask. People didn't want to wear it, didn't want to wear it, didn't want to wear it. Then they were forced, directly and indirectly forced, to come in and say, hey, we're going to wear this mask. Then they gave us a false sense of security by saying, okay, you don't have to wear the mask now because, our numbers are starting to go in the right direction. They're starting to fall. And now, once people got comfortable to the idea of not having to wear the mask again, they're saying, oops, we got it wrong. You need to wear masks again. And people aren't having that. They're already upset and frustrated over the situation. So they didn't want to wear it to be in the first place. They gave the good, and then they say, oh, we got to wear it again. I'm not wearing it. And that's what you're getting now. No, I don't think
Right.
we're going to be in masks, but we're not going to be in masks for long because people aren't going to want to wear it.
Yeah, I mean, Renaya says a lot of people live like it's over. And, some of you may know, I just recently relocated to the South from New York to North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
So when I got here, I really honestly thought I would see people walking around with no mask. I thought, oh my God, what am I going to get myself into? But what I do realize is that people have their masks on.
So you just started in the right spots in North Carolina, because I could tell you,
Yeah,
that
maybe.
they aren't.
Right, maybe because but you know what? Honestly, most of the time I'm going in a supermarket or a
Yeah.
store, so where it's kind of mandated.
Yeah.
But I agree that a lot of people have been living like it's over. Basically, people are getting very comfortable and thinking
Yeah.
that they had the vaccination and that they were safe. And so, yeah, I kind of agree with that statement. But we're kind of like all over the place with this thing. Good morning, Jasmine. Good morning, twin status. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. I hope that I'm not missing anyone. I really hope I'm not missing anyone. It's not on purpose, because I do appreciate you guys really showing up. So Mel, let's talk about how the pandemic has changed how people earn their living.
You're gonna jump right into the meat potatoes.
I'm gonna jump right in. And chat. Let me know. Let us know what your thoughts and opinions are on some of these things that we're talking about. Let us know what your opinion is. Tawani Yvette says, I'm wearing gloves at the pump, masks, hand sanitizer, alcohol, and spray bottles. I'm not playing with this mess, honey. And I get that. I understand that. And because I guess a lot of people had stopped doing those things, maybe that's why we are back where we are now. Maybe that's what it's about. But what about earning a living? What about money? Has this changed the way people earn a living? Has it changed forever?
Emphatically, yes.
So let's get into that, girl. Let's get into that.
Okay, so let me go ahead and say that I'm going to add the disclaimer for myself that everything that we are talking about today is based off of experiences. Okay. So if I give you information that I have, it's based off of what I have experienced personally. This is not based on fact, because we all know how YouTube likes to be when we start talking about things such as sensitive matters like these.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be out here thinking that we're going to be speaking facts and giving stats and whatnot. This is solely experiences. Now, what I'm going to say is this. What I have experienced in terms of working is when we were pre-pandemic, when we were right around the time where the pandemic had started to really show its head and the initial fear started coming out, people were working, people were doing the regular stuff that they needed to do. And everything was normal. But then when the pandemic really started to roll through your town and everyone started losing their jobs, people weren't so sure about what they were going to do, how they were going to make their ends meet, whether or not they were going to suffer, so on and so forth. It put a grinding halt and fear, and in the most part of the families, because they didn't know how they were going to pay their bills from month to month. You know, you were going in making, $80,000, $90,000 a year, and suddenly you're down to nothing. You don't know how are you going to get your insurance? How is your insurance going to get paid if you're not working? A lot of people rely on health insurance, and that health insurance comes out of their paycheck. How are you going to get that? How are they going to do this? How are they going to pay this? Bills coming up. They were already, in theory, poor, living from check to check. And now you took the check that they were living off of, right? And then once everything started to shut down, people had to rely on what they were good at to try to make a living. So if you had a truck, like just an old busted truck, people were relying on trying to make a few dollars here and there just by going out and putting their lawnmower on the back of their truck and just asking, hey, do you need your lawn mowed? DoorDash, Instacart, those people started popping up like wildfire because people were afraid to go to the grocery store. So you had the Instacart people who were making a killing just going in and delivering groceries to your door.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you had to rely on what you could do and what you were good at. And let's be honest, a lot of us didn't really know what we were good at.
Well, listen, I would say that what it did was people got their hustle on. People learned that they had talents that they didn't really know they had. Some of the talents they knew they had that they weren't doing anything with, they began using those talents, exposing themselves. And so I think there's some good that may have come out of this. And I know that's hard to look at because of everything else. But for some people really did well during this pandemic, which leads me to Tawana Yvette's comment. Yes, my money increased because I work at home anyway. YouTube money increased. Merch sales went up. Website and podcast views increased because folk were home online more. And so for people that were using social media, I think that they started to do really well. They started to do well. So I think that for some people, I know for me, I had a side business, and I started marketing that side business because I wasn't really doing anything with it. And I started marketing it because some of you may or may not know, but daycare has been my life. So I've run a daycare business for over 30 years. So of course, daycare was one of those businesses that was immediately crushed.
Right.
Almost from the very beginning because of fears. So I was one of those people that was like, well, I'm going to shut down, of course, because I'm nervous as heck. But, all my income went out the window. And being self-employed, that means everything because you rely on yourself. So what I did was I started delving into other things that I had going on and having those things work for me. Um, but what do you feel? I mean, I think that when I look at what's been going on around me, it seems that businesses are having a hard time getting people to go to work because of the unemployment. So, okay, so in most states, that's a done deal. So there
Yeah.
is no more unemployment. So now, what are those people? Are they going to go back to work? Like, what? I wonder what they're going to do. I really
All right.
don't know.
Rant begins.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So, as far as unemployment is concerned, if people believe that by cutting unemployment is going to cause a sudden inflection in the way that people are getting their jobs, no, it's not going to happen. Removing unemployment from the picture isn't going to get these people to go back to work immediately. It's not going to happen because we still have outside factors that still have yet to be determined in terms of how people are going to make certain ends meet to be able to open the door for them to return back to work in the first place. For example, people who have families still have to deal with childcare issues. Speaking for myself, the way that my county is set up, I can get a call at any given second to tell me that I need to come get my kid and that I have to keep my kid out of school until I'm able to return, have my kid return back to school with the doctor's note that says that he either doesn't have the virus or doesn't or shows some kind of alternate diagnosis or can have to keep them away for 10 days straight. So if I'm out doing a traditional 9 to 5 or traditional 8 to 5 job, then guess what? How am I supposed to hold my job down if I have to stop at the blink of an eye to go get my kid? I can't be productive and my employer isn't going to feel the same. I also look at it like employers at this moment are thinking that because of the way that the unemployed Americans are at this moment, that they can just freely say that they're going to just take, the employees are a dime a dozen. They're expendable at this point because there's so many of them. I can just basically say, because you need a job, I'm going to charge or pay you whatever I feel is the lowest that I can pay you. Because at this point, an average person who was making $50,000 a year on a job is now making $30,000 or $40,000 a year for that same role that they were doing. Why? Because now they can afford to bring up two of you for the cost of the one that it was pre-pandemic. So now, people don't want to just take anything that they're going to get. No, that's not going to cause, just cutting off unemployment isn't going to do any good for anyone. Last point that I want to make on that is about the idea of the pandemic itself. Okay. People have a genuine fear that this stuff is coming back. So if people are still afraid to get out and go to the grocery store and we feel like we have to still wear masks and that's still what it is in order to try to mitigate whatever it is that we're trying to mitigate, how do we know that these employers aren't suffering too and they're rising back up and saying, well, we don't know whether or not we're going to have to shut down our business again? Because I don't want to go through the process of trying to get hired on with a company just to turn around and find out that company is going to fire me again because they can't keep up with their bills.
Well, that's a good point. It's a good point to be made because I think that employers, as I was an employer and you didn't have money coming in, it really doesn't boil down to you don't want to pay more. It really is that your business has been closed and not earning any income for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And you really don't have the money. But Vern says, I'm a recruiter and some don't want to go to work in a building. And I get that and I understand that. But this is my thing. I think that a lot more remote jobs have been put into place. And I think that employers realizing that I don't know how productive people are at home. I've worked from home for years, so I'm productive working at home, but everybody isn't. But do you think that now we're going to have more employers hiring remotely? Because yes. I watch the Indeed log and I see tons of remote jobs, tons of them. So I'm wondering, is that going to be the new wave? Is it? I want to make a point here. Dolly says that's not 100% true, Melissa. Employers are giving employees incentives, bonuses. For example, the restaurant my husband manages are paying their front of house staff $35. Is that $35 an hour, or it's a $35 bonus? So I'm sure that during this whole thing, you have some employers that are going to try their best to do the right thing. But I don't know.
I can say that there are an average set of restaurants in my community right now that are still only paying $8.75 an hour.
Okay, so is that the minimum wage in North Carolina?
$8.25 is the minimum wage in North Carolina.
So
yeah. Because and people are, and then okay.
So because the reason that I'm questioning that is because my daughters, remember, they got hired here before we actually relocated, and they got hired at one. I'm losing my wording, at one salary, and in the middle of that, I believe it was May 30th, they were told that the minimum wage had increased to $15. So where did that come from?
The state has not, at least that I know of, the state has not written that into law. That was held up in the state legislative group committee.
Okay, so the employers are making their own choices.
There are some companies that do believe in fair wage, and they are opting themselves to increase those wages. For example, Target did do theirs. They did move theirs up to a $15 minimum. Walmart did not go to $15 an hour. They went to $12 an hour. And that's here in our area. Only reason why I know these is because my mother works at Walmart. Well, she used to. She doesn't now. My mom worked at Walmart, had worked in Walmart for a while. My dad worked at Sam's Club, had worked there for a while, still works there. And the pay is not, it's not good enough. But then you have, I mean, hold on. I think I just seen someone. Miss Kia 22 said, I think it really just depends on the industry.
Right.
And that's really it. It really depends on the industry. You should also take into consideration that, using that as a point as well, a lot of people aren't going to go back to work quite as fast because they want to change their career paths. Somebody got stuck inside of their career that they've been doing for 15, 20 years, and now they get an opportunity to change that career. That's what a lot of them did. I mean, and now granted, that's going to start probably a low pay too, because now you're considered an entry-level worker at your new career, but it's still a career change nonetheless.
Vern says fast food in New York is $15 per hour. Yeah, I'm aware of that, definitely. And no, that's the change between coming from north to south.
Yes.
It's a big change, but I agree. The issue is a lot of people are becoming too comfortable with being a sitting duck. And that was one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of, how this has changed, how people are being financially secure, how the pandemic has changed how people look at work now. Are they ready to go back to work? Have they started to feel that the government should support them more? And at this point, it's over. I think it was a long ride. I think for a lot of people, it was a good ride, but it's time to move forward from it. I mean, listen, the way I look at it is, we have gone through the flu pandemic. We've gone through polio. We've gone through a lot of things before.
Yeah.
It's extremely scary. It is extremely scary, but we've got to live. We have got to move on. If you're in the DMV, okay, the hospitality industry is really suffering due to lack of staff. And Dolly, yes, can you put in a word to your husband that I need some work? I'm willing to come to that area. Okay. Um, so yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm gonna pack up again. Yeah, Vern, get off of the county checks and let's get to work. Let's understand that we have done that. We did have some of us a break. We a lot of us used that money to really put ourselves in a better position when this whole pandemic is over. So
Yes.
thank you so much for listening to Mina's Reborn Angels. So I really, I mean, I think that if you have not made some changes or figured out where you're going to go from here, I think now is the time to do that. What do you think, Mel? Do you think people need to make a decision?
Yes. I think
Mhm.
that you should have made the decision over the summer, honestly. I think that waiting until unemployment is officially ran out, if that's what's according to your state, waiting until the very last moment to change lanes. People, I mean, if you do that in driving, in regular driving, people, that irritates the hell out of everyone. Okay. So
Mhm.
don't wait till the last minute to go try to merge into a new lane. So the
Yes.
same goes here. Don't wait until the last minute to try to change your lane as far as what it is that you want to do. If you want to get involved in something else, you should have opened that time up while we were in during the summer. Get that time. If you want to do something different, we should all be encouraging one another to do that, because no one wants to go back and return to work for a job or for a company that they absolutely hated. Okay, sometimes the company pays well. Sometimes the company the industry offers great benefits, but you couldn't get your stuff together. You couldn't get your work life balance together. You came home stressed every single day. You came home with the feeling like every morning you go to work and you feel like, you know what? F this S. I don't want to
Mhm.
deal with this anymore. I don't want to work here anymore. Why am I still here? But then you go in because you know you need to make the money. This was the prime opportunity to open your eyes and say, I want to change something.
Yeah.
I want
Figure.
to do something different. So
Right.
no, don't wait. You should have already started it.
Yeah, kind of. And I mean, everybody, moves at their own pace, but I think that this is the perfect time. If you haven't done so, it's not too late. Go ahead,
Get some certifications.
figure out what it is that you really love to do, because there's nothing more satisfying than doing what you absolutely love to do and earn a living doing that.
Doing
So
it.
I think for a lot of people, the pandemic, this situation has done that for us. A lot of people have started YouTube channels because YouTube has been a great way for people to figure out what they want to do and put it out there and earn a living doing it. So
Yeah.
I think that it has changed how people are earning a living, some for the good, some not so good. But I think eventually, again, life is what we decide to make it. And I
Yeah.
think that you can turn things around. You can make some good come out of bad. It's not always bad is going to come from bad. We're not always going to get negative out of everything. We can find the positive in each and every situation.
We sure
Um,
can. I
yeah.
mean, this is our lives we're talking about. This is our the future of our family, if you have one. This is your name at stake. This is everything. That if you want to have a passion and you know that there's still something deep burning inside of you, start it.
Yeah.
Try it. Do
Yeah.
it. What other time could you ever say in your life that you would have an opportunity to try something new?
Hmm.
Everything was shut down.
Right.
Try something new.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about, and I know this is a biggie for a lot of parents, which is the homeschooling versus having the children go into the school buildings and
Mhm.
learn. This is a tough one for parents. I know this is a tough one. A lot of parents aren't built to be with their children all day, every single day. A lot of parents aren't built to teach their children. So it
Nope.
can be difficult. But I'm going to give you my experience, and then Mel, I'm going to let you take over because you have your children at home.
Mhm.
So for me, as a daycare provider, when I decided to reopen, I had 5 school age children. All of them were in different classes. I had second grade, I had fifth grade, I had sixth graders, and I had fourth grade. So with the school district that the children were in my area, I felt that that school district did a fantastic job. I felt like those children, they were very organized. The beginning was a little messy, but a month in, it was so organized. Those teachers were on those students. Those children were learning. Those teachers were teaching. So I just think it depends on your child, because what I saw was that parents, and I guess it depends on your school district, parents did not need to teach the children. They just needed to make sure that their children were in front of those computers. So I hear a lot of parents saying, oh, this isn't for me. But what my experience was, I didn't have to teach the children. The only thing that I really had to do was to make sure that they got up from those computers when they got their breaks, because they needed to move around. And I needed to make sure that they were focused. And, you know, that was it. I know when your kids are home, they're different than when they're out. But that was my experience. Those children did really well. Their grades were well. The teachers talked. The parents and I talked. You know, because the teachers could see what the students were doing, you know, on the computers. The kids were sitting in a classroom per se. So I don't know. I thought that for the situation we were in, that the kids that I had, the ones that were in my care, I felt they did really good. So, you know, I don't know. Mel, what do you think? What was your experience?
Okay. It was the craziest, dumbest bullshit that I have ever seen in my life. Okay. So backstory for me, there are 7 children in my house at the time of the rise of the pandemic. Of the 7 children, only 1 at that time was not of school age. So I had a kindergartner, I had a 4th grader, I had a 7th grader, I had a 6th grader, I had a 8th grader, and I had a senior. When they made the announcement that they were closing the schools back in March of last year, back in March of 2020, we were right at the tail end of that year. And nothing was prepared. Okay. When the closure announcements were made, nothing was prepared. No one knew how to do anything. They just threw old devices. If you were even lucky to get a device, they threw those devices into the kids' laps and said, do your best. As a parent, they did not give us very much information at all to work with, outside of this is what's due, this is when it's due, and they couldn't even put it in one consistent spot on the site that they were using for us to try to, you know, to go back between conversation and the teachers and things. Those people didn't even, we couldn't reach the teachers. If we had questions, we couldn't ask. We didn't know where to go. Sometimes the teachers would check their email. Sometimes they didn't check their email. So things were coming up and falling down, and you weren't able to do what you were doing. It was stressing my kids out. Then summer finally came. They were like, well, you have the option if you want to take your kids to summer learning, if you want your kids to do summer learning. Well, the way that the year ended, I'm like, no, we're not going to do summer learning. My kids need a break, because that was just a really bad time. And then when the new year started for last year, from August of last year, they kept delaying it. They kept delaying the reentry. Delay. First, we were going to delay it by 5 weeks. Then we were going to delay it by another 2. Then we would go back and revisit it 2 weeks from then. And so by the time that they decided that they were going to officially open the school, well, we done went through the first quarter of the school year. So those kids were forced to, again, remain online but they weren't actually going on and signing on. The original thing that they told us was, well, your kid didn't actually have to sign on to live class. They made it so that you could go like this and watch the replay. So then none of the kids would get up in the morning and they would sign in because they knew that they could go back and watch the replay to do the work. But the problem is that eventually the teachers didn't know how to operate the equipment properly, and then the replays would fail. And then you wouldn't be able to go back and see what the kids needed to learn, or what pages needed to be done. And then they're like, well, why wasn't your kid in class? Because you told my kid they didn't need to be in class. So it was a whole mess. And then we get to this year. Okay, they open the schools back up. And when they open the schools back up, they're like, well, because of learning loss, we're going to keep the schools open by any means necessary. Okay, well, let's go ahead and point out first and foremost, learning loss happened to occur prior to the pandemic beginning. We have learning loss in this state for other reasons, but I'm not going to go on to that. That's what we can talk about. But do not blame the children for learning loss when there was just series of malfunctions that kept happening because they didn't know how to properly set up remote learning and figure out how that they can get it work. However, you got all of these colleges that are in surrounding areas within North Carolina who have whole degree programs that you can do online. Make that make sense. Why didn't you reach out to the collegiate group and ask them, how can I structure the county stuff to mirror this? The kids were stressed. All of my kids were stressed. Everything was constant pulling teeth. You don't know what was past due. You don't know what was graded. You don't know whether or not they did well or not. You had to constantly send emails out back and forth to whoever you could try to reach out to and say, can you reach out to this person? It was, yes, Dolly, it was a damn shame. So now they're like, okay, well, we're going to keep the schools open. We're going to blame the kids for the fact that they had learning loss, but we're going to keep the schools open. Now that they're going to school, they have made this asinine thing here in the state, which is if you have a series of no words, they are going to automatically take you out of the classroom, isolate you, and make you be sent home for the process. So where is the education? You were worrying about learning loss, but where the hell how are they supposed to learn if they're constantly going back and forth? You're pulling them out of class. Are you going to blame them for that too?
Oh, it sounds like they need a new district. They need a new.
It's not just this district. It's all the districts. They based it. Well, no, it's not. I take that back. It's not all the districts. Some districts change their thing, but my district specifically.
I mean, I'm sure some parents in my school district had some issues, but I felt the very beginning where there was a struggle. I felt the very beginning where there was a struggle, but I felt like I had to give my district a real pat on the back because they did the dang on thing. They did it. They were very organized. The parents could go on and see exactly what the children were supposed to be doing. There was a system in place where you could see what the homework was. They gave out, every child had laptops. Every child came home with books. I mean, it was awesome. One of the students broke their laptop. They told her, bring it on in. Let's give them a new one. And so
our laptops for the year that we got them, our laptops last year, for as of last August, all the students didn't actually get a device until January of this year.
Wow.
So people still had to share devices. So explain to me, if you have two children within the same household, how are they supposed to be sign on and doing work if you have another child that they got to share a device with? That's why we relied so heavily on replays, because half the time the devices didn't work. I have a lot of devices in the house, so I was using my personal laptop. We had tablets. We were able to pull. Some of the kids were able to use their phones. So, we have 2 extra laptops that just weren't used, that we had to go in and, refix up and get back to where it needed to be just to be able to use it for school. we dug as deep as we could get without going out and buying new computers for everyone ourselves.
Well, listen, I so what do you feel in terms of should the children be back in school? What do you think? Because I know that a lot of the schools are sitting. That's my thoughts at this point. I think until they get it together, I know. But this is the thing. This is what we know. We know that those schools are going to open, and quite frankly, most of them are going to stay open because of the funding. If they don't open, they're not going to get the funding from federal. So I think that these schools are going to open. I think that we have to send our children to school with a prayer, with a real prayer, and just pray to God that they stay safe. Because, I mean, other than that, what do? Parents have to get back to work, right?
Yeah.
We just have to teach our children to be safe, and what they consider safe is to keep a mask on. So we must remind our children the importance of masks, and not just masks, the importance of hand washing. Because for me, working with toddlers and school age for over 30 years, one of the biggest things that people don't teach their children is to wash their hands. And that is one of the easiest ways to prevent these children from spreading illnesses. And it's not just, I know that we're in the midst of this, but children get very, very sick from the flu. Children
they sure do.
From the measles. And so this is just another thing added on top of that. So we have to teach our children, wash your hands, give them hand sanitizer, teach them to use it properly. And let's just pray on it, because we know these schools, we know they're not going to close. We know that.
They need the funding. They need the funding. They're not going to close because they need the funding. So it's not really they're doing it out of abundance of caution with the students, or they having the idea of the students' safety in mind. It's because they need the funding. And the moment that they get the check, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they shut the school back down.
So At It Again says, my district, there's a shortage. Teachers and assistants have not returned. Now, you know what I'm going to say for that? I'm going to say that people have a real fear. People have real fears. And if teachers and assistants are not returning, it has more to do with this. It has somewhat to do with this pandemic, but it has a lot to do with the fact that they probably didn't want to do what they were doing to begin with. Because
think about it. Yeah, I agree.
Listen, if you have a real love for children, you want to get back in there and do what you want to do. I have a love for children, and so I got myself opened up as soon as I possibly could have. And you know, that's what it is. I just use safety, and I stayed open for about, I would say about 6 months before I, just was raring to relocate.
Yeah.
But none of my children got sick, and I had school age and I had 3-year-olds, and none of them got sick while they were in my care. Was I concerned when they went home? Not really. I had faith that the parents were going to do what they were supposed to do. And one of them, I had to call her out on it, and that was it. It is what it is. But if you really have a love of what you're doing, you want to get back to those children. We know we need to get back to those children. And that's the honest to God's truth. Miss Kia, oh my God, thank you for coming in, Miss Kia. I appreciate you. She said, I had to fight a 17-year-old to actually get out of the bed, get dressed, and log on. It just made for a lazier environment, lazy learning. Teachers had no expectations and low standards.
Yes.
And I think it depends on your school district, and also how much support were the teachers getting in the school district, because that means the world. If the principal and the vice principal, assistant principals, whatever, if they weren't doing their job to give these teachers incentives and letting them know that they were grateful for them showing up, then they're not going to want to do their job. So that plays, a big hand in it.
I think that your teachers weren't supported. Please, yes, please, and thank you, Vern. But yes, no, I believe the teachers really weren't supported. I think the majority of the fallback ended up being thrown into the laps of the teachers to try to ensure that everything that was going with remote was going to work properly, but then they had to do it with next to nothing. And then, I mean, I can give you all kinds of different arguments that people have done within my own county as far as the school system, and watching the school district like live videos that they do talking about, you know, when they do their votes and things, and how teachers and staff would come up and say, you know, this isn't working for us. This isn't working for us. We can't do it the way that you want us to do it. And so it's like, yeah, my heart went out to the teachers, because it's like, you guys the teachers didn't understand half the time how to make certain equipment work, because they really weren't given any instructions on how to make it work besides make it work. Right. So yes, my hats off went to those people who had to, you know, they had to call in, they had to check in, they had to send emails to us to let us know, hey, your kid didn't participate in class. Hey, your kid may be missing assignments. Hey, whatever. But then they also heavily relied on these random ass websites to do certain things like math. Okay, there are programs that I've never encountered before this pandemic, math programs. And you had to do certain things, and they try to make it very video game-ish and whatnot, and it just didn't do what it needed to do. You would see the grade after you were done, but then the grade would drop by 10 points by the time the teacher got a hold of it. So the grade would be less than, and then you'd have to send an email to the teacher and say, well, where's the extra 10 points? Well, I show that they made this grade. Well, I show that they made this grade. Then you had to screenshot the grades so that your kid was getting the grades that were properly reflecting the work that they did. Just, I mean, at this point, I just feel like, you know, in school is just going to be the only other option that we really have.
Well, listen, this is what I think that what the school district should have learned a lot and taken a lot from this. Mel, you and I had a personal conversation, and one of the things that was mentioned was that maybe some of the school districts should have went to the colleges and figured out how they get it done, because it works. There is online people getting their degrees online. So that would be one way for the school districts to prepare for something like this that happens again. And of course, something like this will happen again, because it's the inevitable. Life is ever changing, so it's inevitable. At It Again Media makes a good, asks a question. She says, for all of the homeschooling family, do you believe this new normal has impacted the children?
I don't believe so.
You don't?
No, I don't believe so, because with homeschooling, they have the ability to critique their curriculum to better suit the needs of their children. So they're picking what they're going to teach that day. They're picking what out of what they're going to learn and how they're going to learn it and the manner that they're going to learn it. So they get the luxury of being able to still keep school fun and still keep learning fun. Whereas with remote learning, we were still drilling down what those techniques had to be and how you do stuff, because basically they were still teaching what the test was going to be. And the fact that you still had the end of courses, the end of grades. So how are you effectively going to teach an end-of-grade when they didn't even have a grade in theory? They weren't there, you know? So no, I personally don't believe that the homeschooling family had much of a change. I think they still do the same thing that they were doing before, but they got to enjoy their process.
So Vern, you and I, or you sparking a debate I'm ready for, girl, because this thing where these parents want a babysitter, this is a whole nother show, but to be honest, a lot of it boiled down to that parents look at the schools as babysitters a lot. And I know this because I've been working with parents for over 30 years. And they expect the schools to do everything. So this was a time for parents to be held accountable for their children. And a lot of parents did not like that.
No.
So if you think in terms of how many times you have to tell your child to sit down in front of the computer, pay attention. Your teacher is talking. And if you have to do that over and over and over again, imagine what the teacher is having to go through in her classroom. And people want to criticize teachers every day about what they do and what they don't do. But just imagine how difficult it is when those children are in front of that teacher and they're talking to each other. They don't have any respect. They're not paying attention to the lesson in front of them. Listen, we can do this all day, every day, because a lot of parents, not all, if the shoe fits, wear it, but if it don't fit, don't try to squeeze your foot into it. But there are a lot of parents that really do look to the schools to babysit their children. They just want to be out. They want the kids to be out of the household, and it is as simple as that. I think that, and Renaya says, I received my bachelor's online, but they too had some hiccups when everyone had to go remote. And I can absolutely imagine that. I can absolutely imagine that. So the next topic that we want to talk about is state enforcement and mask mandates. How is that going? And I really want to hear from the chat. How do you think that's going? Like, how do you think it's going in terms of mask mandates? I know in New York, and tell me if I'm wrong, Vern, Renaya, tell me if I'm wrong, Wanston, are they enforcing the mask mandates? Are they really saying that you can't go into restaurants unless you have a mask on? How is that working there? How is it working? Because we don't have that here, right, Mel? I said we.
No.
We don't have that here.
I know. Look at you. Welcome to the South, girl. No, we don't have the mask mandates. Like we aren't required to show our vaccination card in order to enter into a restaurant or whatnot. We are required to wear the mask into places, but honestly, I have seen employees that's in the places that I have visited that aren't wearing their mask. So to say that it is a requirement in this state to wear a mask inside, and then your own employees aren't wearing the mask when you get in, that's a problem. And that's showing that no one is really taking it seriously enough. Now, let me add, North Carolina has not mandated masks. They just highly recommend them. Okay. It is a suggestion. They are voluntelling that we need to wear a mask, but they cannot mandate it at this time. At least our governor has not done it yet.
Mm-hmm. So, I know that when we enter stores now, they're saying basically masks are required. And they're no longer saying whether you've been vaccinated or not. So
that's correct.
You know, do we think that the masks are really working? How do we feel about wearing the mask? I know I was in the store the other day and everybody in the store had a mask on. Everybody had a mask on. And I'm vaccinated, but I wear a mask wherever I go. It doesn't matter, right? Because my thing is, there are a lot of unknown questions, right? I don't want to harm anyone, and I don't want anyone to harm me unnecessarily. So I just do what I think is right. And so I go in the store, and I'm coming this way, and they're coming that way, and these two people have no mask on. Why did I get so angry? Like, I was so overly angry that they didn't have a mask on. You know, it's like, you know, why not just do it? I mean, I don't like wearing them, but why not just wear the mask? I don't get that. At least when you go in the store. Now, the moment I come out of a store, I take it down. Because I can't breathe. But I just, you know, so I don't know. I get angry when I see, because I think it's just a lot of people just, because it's something that they're told to do, they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's Me Wanston says, my sister-in-law was a school teacher here in New York City. And she said by the time she calls the names, it's over like 80 people in one. You know, listen, New York is a class of its own, but we love our New York. Okay, Dolly, I can't read what you just wrote. Okay, I can't read it. Oh, no, you read what you said.
Yes, they work alongside. Wash your damn hands in between your ass and toes.
You
Yes,
know she's cutting out.
I
She's cutting
agree.
out.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Arabian Media says they're mandated that everyone in the public service sector must get vaccinated. And I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's still a choice. I think it still should be a choice. Um, I do. I really do believe it should be a choice. I don't believe that we really should do it. But I think that if you don't do that, if you don't get vaccinated, that you should wear your mask. That's how I feel for now.
As far as the mask mandate is concerned, or even let me not even say the mandate, enforcement is concerned, there needs to be consistency. Okay, it cannot vary from store to store. It cannot be or vary from day to day or from manager to manager or whoever the staff is on duty. There needs to be a strong dividing line that if you walk into a place of business that requires the use of you wearing masks, you should be enforcing that. Yes, I know that means that you're going to have your time where people are going to cuss you up down one way and down the other because they don't want to wear the mask, because they don't want to feel comfortable with it. But at this point in time, turning people away because they aren't adhering to the policies is what needs to be done. Let's take YouTube, for example. YouTube has policies and guidelines that we are required to have in order to effectively run a channel. And if we do not adhere to those policies, they cut our channels off.
That's right.
So this is the same thing. If a
That's
mask
right.
mandate is necessary, you need to enforce it regardless of how a person feels. They can go in and they can get mad, but you can walk right back out the door mad. You
Right.
ain't got to be here.
That's right. That's right. I agree. Good morning, Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. Thank you. I totally agree, and it looks like a lot of the chat is saying that they believe vaccination should be a choice. And again, we all know it's so difficult to get people to follow rules. It's like, because they said do it, I'm going to do the opposite, and that's what we're seeing here. And so I think that's one of the reasons we're having such a difficult time getting rid of this thing that we're going through.
Right.
But
now, as far as the vaccine being a choice, yes, I agree that it is, and it should still remain a choice. Okay, we still have the anti-vaxxers. We still have the people who still refuse to get get other vaccines outside of this for whatever purposes that they choose not to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we've also seen that has caused rises in certain things, even outside of the pandemic that we are experiencing now. However, to tell a person that they can't work at a facility because they haven't received a mask is a bit of a stretch. Now, if you're in a healthcare facility and you're
a mask or vaccination,
vaccination,
okay.
And you don't have a vaccine, you work in a healthcare facility, and your sole responsibility is to literally treat patients, then yes, I do believe you should be mandated to do that. A first responder. A person, you get into an accident and you have the first responder, a paramedic that is coming to give you life-saving measures. I don't want to feel like while I'm trying to save your life, there's a possibility that the person who is trying to breathe life back into me could potentially be making me sick.
So I want to definitely interject there. So there's been a thing forever with nurses, doctors, people that work at the hospitals.
Yes.
That if they did not receive their flu shot, especially for administrators, whenever they went onto the floor, they had to wear a mask. That was in place long before this virus came about. So again, my personal belief, I don't believe that because I work in the health industry that I should be mandated, because this is the thing. Everybody has their beliefs, right? Everybody
Right.
feels certain ways towards health. And it's not just this particular vaccine. There are people that don't believe in vaccines at all. And so
Yes.
I think that you should still have a choice. I think that I want to look at it this way. So there are nurses and doctors in the hospitals today that have decided not to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
They have not, so a lot of them have not contracted it, a lot of them have contracted it.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it's fair, because there are a lot of other illnesses that people could have that I wouldn't want them breathing life into my body if I knew they had it. So I
Right.
don't want to discriminate and say it's this particular thing, because they could have a lot of other things that will put us down that they're not being vaccinated for, that we're not being
Right.
vaccinated against. So I don't want to use this for the government or anyone else taking away my right to decide what I think is good for me.
Yes.
I do believe that if I'm in a hospital, if I'm in an area and I have not been vaccinated, at least until they get this thing under control, that we should all wear a mask, if especially if we hadn't been vaccinated. So, I mean, that's my take on it. Let me just see what some of the chat is saying. So at it again, media says, I'm a firm believer of working smarter and not harder at my age. So this decision will also impact my future to find other ways to make my earnings. Absolutely. And we talked about that. Absolutely. Good morning, Shine. Good morning. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So Shiny says, people have to remember that the vaccination is literally just an experiment as to who and how it can affect people. Well, now we're getting controversial, but listen, and that's my thing, is that everybody has their own beliefs. So
Right. These are experiences.
yeah, I don't think it's fair to make someone do this, because what if you do it and the reaction to it takes you out, or whatever your beliefs are.
Right.
We have to be careful about forcing people to do certain things. I mean, this is still supposed to be the United States of America. So, and I don't know what that means, but so the last thing that we want to talk about is, and we already started on it, which is the vaccine, yay or nay. We've already started the topic. And everybody's opinions are different, and I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I think we're all entitled. So
whether or not you choose to or do not choose to take the vaccine is going to be solely up to you as a person and what your life choices are going to be. But just like Shanae is saying, just popped in, it isn't anymore. It's the land of the forced. I really believe that the scare tactics that our country is putting into forefront is what's really swaying people on the vaccination string. Okay. While they cannot say right now that you absolutely have to take this, they can still say this is an option. However, they're going to make life incredibly difficult for you if you choose not to take it. And it's one of those things that you've just got to face the reality. Which one do you want to have? Don't complain about how things are going to happen, because fear is still going to be the way that they're going to determine whether or not you get this or not. They're going to continue to scare you with numbers. They're going to continue to scare you with occurrences. They're going to continue to scare you with what private companies are doing, and whether or not you're going to be able to continue on with education, and whether or not you're going to do all the things that you're going to do. It is the scare tactics that is going to decide yay or nay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
whether or not you choose to do what you're doing is going to be completely up to you in the end.
Okay, so I'm hearing this for the first time, and I agree with you, Mel, wholeheartedly. It's ultimately your decision. Um, Joy says, I am so thankful my children are grown. I agree, girl, very thankful. Yet both of my G babies are in the classroom. They are required to wear a mask, but not the educators. Scary. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, has anyone
That's
else?
different. No, I haven't heard that either. This is why conversations like this need to happen, because people don't know anything about what's going on in other states, or in,
Right.
for that matter, other countries. We didn't
Right.
know.
I had no idea. I mean, and is that, ooh, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know what to say for that. I don't think that I would,
I wouldn't feel comfortable as an educator to educate if that's the case, because I'm
because,
still taking my health at risk.
right, and the teachers are they're there to set an example for the students. So if the teacher isn't wearing their mask, then how can you encourage the students to wear a mask? Like, I'm confused. But Dolly says, to be honest, had the former administration been proactive in preventing this from even getting into the U.S., we wouldn't be dealing with this shit. Everyone, yes,
That's
ma'am,
true.
absolutely. Nobody. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. That is the absolute truth. And maybe it just wouldn't have gotten to be as bad as it
I
did.
mean, it was going to happen eventually. Okay.
Yes.
Crossing over the pond was going to be inevitable. Okay. Because as long as we have global travel, things are going to
Yeah.
happen. So it was going to. But the thing is that if history hasn't told us anything, history has taught us that what? Everything repeats itself. So
Yeah.
let's be honest. We've seen this stuff happen before, and we still were not put in a good enough position to be able to make the choices that we need to be able to make. And our country did not give us what we needed to be able to successfully handle it, besides fear.
Yes.
Fear of
Yes.
the unknown, fear of what can you do? Like, how do I fix this? Okay, well, common sense stuff says that you should have already been washing your hands.
Right.
Common sense says you should already try your best to stay at home as much as possible so that you don't spread a common cold around to the
Mm-hmm.
people that's in your workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Common sense says that remote options should have already been available to people who need to, do the things that they do in terms of managing a family and working from home. Common sense says that you should be out active and exercising. Common sense says that you should be actively seeing your doctor. You should be actively seeing your dentist and making sure that your health is where you need it to be, so that you don't end up getting sick. And Dolly just finished it up. I'm not even going to finish it. She said it. Bottom line, boost your immune system, keep your body clean, minimize in-person interactions as much as you can, and make sure you teach your children to practice personal space while in school.
And that is it in an absolute nutshell. Hello, Rochelle Vanderpool. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome in, Rochelle.
Thank you so much for joining us. So there was something that I saw. At It Again Media. I'm laughing at what she said, and I can't even find it now. It was hilarious.
They opened everything to damn soon.
Here it goes. She said, years ago, I finally took a chance and had the flu shot. I was sick as a fish out of water for 2 months. Not proud to say this, but I became a Depend supporter because of the after effects. And because of experiences like that, people are very wary about taking or being vaccinated. And again, it's not only this particular shot that people are concerned about, this vaccine. People have been concerned about vaccinations for years. A year ago in my county, we had a big measles outbreak, a huge measles outbreak. and people were dying left and right. The schools, kids were getting the measles. And so there became a big fight about, I don't know if you guys remember this, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so in New York State, they mandated that they were no longer going to exclude children from school because they had to have a medical reason only. So a lot of people didn't vaccinate their children and said it was for religious purposes. They wiped that out. The only way your child could attend a school in New York State without having a measles shot is if it is a medical reason. So this has been going on for a long time. People have been very wary of getting vaccinations. And because
that one bothers me a little bit though, because we still have liberties. We still have rights as citizens. And I don't know. I think that idea may not hold up in court. I know you said they did it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't lawsuits because you're violating for that. You're violating the rights.
But you have to, there were, and so far it has held up, and that's about a year and a half or more ago, because we've been dealing with this. That may have been almost 3 years ago. I'm sure that there are going to be fights for years and years and years with this, but it's there. This has been an issue for years. It's not just this. So that's another point. So if that's a problem, then so would you telling me that I have to be vaccinated against this in order to attend schools or to attend a job. It's just it's a scary premise in this country. But I mean, it's something that we're going to have to deal with. I'm sure that this subject is going to come up over and over again because we're at the beginning of this. We're absolutely at the beginning. We're not at the end of it. We're at the beginning.
No, I mean, we're probably halfway now because the thing that's consistent with viruses is that viruses will always mutate. I mean, that's why we have to take the flu shot every year, because they have to keep modifying what's inside of it so that it incorporates whatever, at least to my opinion or to my knowledge. But this isn't over, and we have to understand, and we have to talk about things just like this and say, so how do we live our lives? How do we live like this? How it is this, just like the thumbnail says, is this the new normal? How do we normalize the things that we are experiencing? How do we normalize this stuff?
Should we normalize it? My question is, and it's not even a question, it is, should we even normalize this? Like, is this the normal way to live, that we go in stores, we have to have a mask on, that our children have to wear masks when they go to class? Like, should this be the new norm? It concerns me. It's a very scary plight. I have grandchildren. It's a very scary plight that this could possibly be their future. Will it, like we started this conversation off, Mel, will this last forever? Probably not. Probably not. This will probably start to go away, eventually after another year or so. It'll probably start to diminish and something else will come and take its place. I think it was a very good thing to talk about. I think we are all dealing with this situation. And I really just wanted to question, and, in conversating with Mel, we just discussed this. And I was like, what, this is a good topic for us to discuss, because this affects everyone.
Not just everyone who is in participation, everyone that's in the chat now, anyone who comes back and watches this replay later is going to have their own experiences. And I think it's high time that we talk about our experiences. How do we cope? Just like Dolly said here, we do what we innately do. You adapt. So what are our ways to adapt? How do we learn to live with this? How do we learn to move on and get a little normal back when the normal isn't the same normal that we're used to? Is there such a thing? Was the stuff prior to the pandemic normal anyway? Do you want to even be normal again? Do you want to be where you were 2 years ago?
You know what? You know what? I think that, like I was saying earlier, I think that there is a lesson in this for everyone, and I'm a big believer that we can always find some positive within a negative situation. And so, for a lot of people, like we discussed, a lot of people found a new way to earn a living. A lot of people learned that they had a craft that was worth earning a living on. We should have, and if we have not, I encourage you to take this situation and use it as a prop to put yourself up on a higher pedestal, to think about more about finding out who you are, what it is you want. Find out what you can take from this situation that's positive. Was it a positive experience spending more time with your children at home? It could be made positive. I know I used it as a positive experience. Even though my business shut down, I stayed in contact with friends. I talked to people every single day that I didn't used to talk to every single day, just keeping the sanity going. So
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, a lot of positive came out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
People were out and about doing things that they weren't normally doing before because they were afraid to go into the community and go into stores and do the average shopping stuff that people did. You see people at parks. You seen people taking walks, even if it was up and down their
right,
road, up and down
right.
within their own, communities there. You saw people doing things that they didn't normally do. So,
Hmm.
yes, there was definitely positive that came out of where we are. And I'm sure that there's plenty of other positive that will still come out of this. But that's the whole point of this. Understand that you can make positive out of it. You can make something good. It's your life.
Yeah, yeah,
It's your
yeah,
life. It's your
yeah.
family's life. You enjoy your family. There's people who they didn't realize that they really didn't know their spouses until they were stuck in the same house with their spouse. They
Hmm.
didn't realize that, hey, I didn't know that I could learn a new language or something like that. They took the time to do it.
Hmm. I think, and also like for parents that were working full time, it gave you a chance to spend time with your children. You got
Sure
to
did.
get to see some of the milestones that you wouldn't have gotten to see because you were at work. Now, granted, I'm telling you that when I decided to open, I had parents begging me, Miss Wilson, are you going to open? Are you going to open? Yeah, parents get overwhelmed. So children need to be in daycare. Children need to be in schools, and parents need to go to work to have adult time with other adults. So
Yes.
yeah, we need to get away sometimes. We don't need to be with our children 24/7. But I think that this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. We have been on for over an hour, and we promised
There's
that
still
we
so
would.
much that needs to be discussed.
Absolutely, so much that needs to be discussed. Absolutely. But I just really first, because a lot of you realize I'm just coming back to YouTube because I relocated, I had some health issues. There's a lot going on. But I am officially back. I'm officially back. So please, guys, mark your calendars. I will be live Sundays Talks with Carol, 1 o'clock p.m. on Sundays. Join me for some more really good engaging conversation, because this is what I do. Okay. Mel, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I appreciate you. You know, I love you, sis. You know, I love you to death.
Girl, you didn't have to thank me. You
We're
know
going to
it.
talk when this is over, because we're going to talk about this some more, as we always
Yeah.
do. I thank all of you that joined in this chat. I so appreciate you guys for coming in and joining us. I really do appreciate you guys. Until Sunday, I will see you guys soon. Have a peaceful, productive, and playful rest of your day, guys. Have a good one. Mouse.